Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today, we have another PySpark experiment. Before that, please go to your module on week 8 and download your class materials. It's just logistic regression with empty cells and a modified version of Titanic data. Then load them into your Databricks platform. I give you a few minutes to do that, so please download it. Then bring both your table and Jupyter Notebook into the Databricks. Okay, hopefully you guys could be able to run a cluster. I said in the previous classes, please run the clusters maybe 30 minutes before the class. So hopefully by the class time, you're sure that you have your cluster running. Okay, so today we work with a modified Titanic dataset that has some empty cells, and we practice some of very streamlined machine learning jobs, including how to deal with the empty cells. Besides, we also have some understanding about random seed and cross-validation, and those kind of similar jobs. Just keep in mind, for your project, you shouldn't just use simple notebook like this. I cannot put a complete project-based notebook because it takes a lot of time. So each class, I just pick a part of a larger project and focus on just some aspects of a project. But in the real case project, maybe your Jupyter notebook could be much longer than this. Okay, so look at the first cell. It has some text about my data, and also a picture. So double click on your cell, and you understand how to do such a comment. So MD stands for marked up document, and you can put some text on it after putting MD. Also, for be able to load picture into your notebook. So this is the command. So bracket, you can put your picture name. So before the exclamation mark, and within the parentheses, you put the web address to your picture. So for me, it's from Wikimedia website. And I mean, this is a specific type of cell that works as a markdown, and you just can put some information about your project. Maybe for your own project, you can find some way that you can upload your image somewhere in the internet, and maybe you can put your own profile image or your project image and those kind of things. So if you work with the regular Jupyter notebook, it might be a little different, but I see there's a lot of similarity. For example, in regular Jupyter notebook, you can change each cell type, but here, for being able to put comment and picture, you need to put MD, and this is like function for loading a picture. So next block, I'm trying to install a package that takes care of missing values. So just similar to regular command prompt type command in your basically any operating system is pretty similar. Pip install missing NO. So it might take a little bit to try to install. For me, I think it's just might be run faster because I already installed. For you, might take a few minutes or a couple of minutes. And similar to previous sessions, we import Spark session and also create an app name. Again, for your class project may not be that much significant because you just have one node, one project time, but sometimes you're running multiple projects. So creating basically app name is useful because you can take care of its progress, but here you just do it as a good practice. Okay, let me wait 1 or 2 minutes so you guys be able to install missing NO package. So for whom you guys are in the class, if you stuck somewhere, you can ask your questions. I think I see some discussion down there. So if you need my help, just let me know. Okay, let's see. Now I can put your notebook. Open the screen up. So, okay, next part, I just import the Titanic.csv, my table with read.csv. And let's look at the schema. So that is the file that I just imported from Hadoop ecosystem, which is like more specifically distributed file system. So with print schema, I can see my column names and their types. So for example, passenger ID is integer, survived integer, P class integer, and age is a continuous number, so it's double, and it has some decimals, phrase double. So looking at schema, do you guys think the schema is fine or it might be some issues? So you're talking about survive? Yeah, I mean, some of them may not be very intuitive. Intuitive might be different. For example, passenger ID. I think it should be string in my point of view because, somebody might have ID of 100, somebody 200. 200 for passenger ID doesn't mean twice than 100. So that could be one thing. Survive could be a category. Let's say age, discipline, parse, ticket, fail could, come in string. Yeah, so you might remember in one of your sessions, I talked about how to change your schema. So in case you're not happy with some of the columns, you can basically change their type. For this project, I don't have to because I don't want, for example, I'm not happy with passenger ID, but later you see that I don't even use that column. So I don't spend time to converting the column type when I'm pretty sure I don't use it in future. So here I don't play with the schema and I don't change it. Again, in your project, you might need to do that, but here I don't. So, okay, let's just leave as it is. Again, I have a markdown block. So if you again click on it, so this again, I have MD hashtag. So this is just for providing a markdown block. Basically, I just put some explanation of what I'm doing. So, and I need it for your project. I need you guys talk about your variables, and I should understand what is going on. For example, Titanic is a well-known data set. People might easily find the variables, but generally speaking, like somebody said parch, P-A-R-C-H, what does it put? SIP SP. Like P class could be a little intuitive, but it's a good practice to just make some markdown blocks and basically explain about your variables, and having a data dictionary is a good practice. So for this type of markdown blocks, you cannot see how I code it, but again, just double click and you can see how I code it. For example, bullet mark, I put this dash for bullet marks, and also for making it like bold, I put double hashtag here. So again, Also, you can Google it if you want to change. For example, if you want to have underlines or make italic fonts, you just Google how to do that. It's just pretty much straightforward. Anyway, so next section, I imported some functions that I need. So as you see, I imported twice. Actually, this is a redundant job. I just wanted to show you that basically it's much faster and efficient if you just import the functions that you need. But sometimes you're not sure which functions you might use. So if it's first time you do such a thing for your project, maybe you import a star, means everything. But if it's like next time you're sure you're not using everything, maybe just import the functions that you need. So 2 lines, this is definitely redundant, but I just wanted to say when I did first time, I imported everything. Second time, I understood, no, I don't need everything. Again, if you want to put a comment on your blog, look at the hashtag. So you can put hashtag anywhere, let's say in front of star. I put a hashtag and type first time I imported every possible function, but it is not efficient. Efficient. It takes some memory from your system. Yeah, I mean, it's a good practice. Again, maybe at the end nobody used that, but if your data is too much large, maybe you can you try to be more efficient. But if your data is not that much large in comparison of your hardware, so maybe you don't care. Okay, so in the last line of the block, look what I did. So I'm do a for loop in data columns with the is null. I'm just focusing whenever there is a empty cell on each column, and I'm counting them up. And with .show method, I can see distribution of empty cells on my columns. Also, so when you do that, so you can see in H you have 177, for Coving 687, and for Embark we have 2 empty cells. So you might remember like in your Python class, you have na.drop. So I don't recommend it. Again, you might remember, unless let's say 90%, 95% of a row or a column is empty, it makes sense to drop that column, get rid of it. But let's say 20% empty, 40%. So you try to avoid dropping rows and columns. Do you guys remember I showed you a video about Apple credit card bias in machine learning? So when you drop too many rows and columns, your model would be prone to have some systematic bias. Okay, every few minutes I wait 1 or 2 minutes in case you need to add some comments. Also, you see I have a very compact for loop. In case if I was in your shoes, probably I add more blocks and go more in details. For example, look at here. There is a cascade button. You can click on it and just click on add cell below. So I made empty cells below. For example, I want to figure out how it works. So I just select this one. Maybe print C. So look, I want I want to just check each part of the for loop. I picked the last part. I want to see how it works. So I did just use this part, and I printed the C. So I know C is showing my data columns. You don't have to for all parts, but in case you're interested to know how it works under the hood of the for loop or any other part of the code, you can add the empty cells below, copy paste some part of your code, and just play with that so you can understand more details. Okay, so from missing no package that I installed, I'm using the bar function. So this is a type of visualizations. Visualization in PySpark is not as sophisticated as Python, but still you can do something cool. So let me just make my web page smaller, 90%, maybe 80%. Yeah. So I hope you see my monitor, but I have to minimize it. So with the bar function, I look at first, I have to convert my data to pandas. So with two pandas method, I converted to basically a format that my missing no package could read. So missing no package doesn't read SQL PySpark type of format or SQL style. So I convert it to pandas, and then with bar method, I'm just showing distribution of emptiness on my tables. So as you see, so I had three columns with the empty values embarked. It seems almost full. I just have few missings. For cabin, maybe around 20% or 80% empty. And for age, maybe I have near 8, like just 10% emptiness. So definitely for age and embark, it's better to just impute them. For cabin, 20% full, I think it still makes sense to impute. I don't want to drop. So just assume you just use any drop method or any other dropping function in Python. So if you drop rows with empty values, you almost lose 80% of your data. So which you don't want. Yes?
So we do this table just to understand like which one of the columns to drop or not to drop.
You just want to have your basically justification why you are imputing or you are not. Again, here you can put some comments, but still in your project, I want to see your thought process, either in your Jupyter notebook or in your write-ups in MS Word of your project. Just put why you did that, why you didn't, so I can look at your thought process and basically just be able to follow you. So, sorry, I just had to make it. I have to zoom out to show you everything. There's another cool visualization with some matrix function. So it also again show you the distribution of emptiness. As you see, we have a significant part of cabin and age are empty. Embarked, maybe just few. Let me just zoom in again. Okay. So any questions from you guys, or we will over Zoom? Okay, let me wait 1 or 2 minutes for everyone to put their comments. Again, it's better to learn while I'm teaching. You can ask your questions. I will post the video later, but you save a lot of time if you just figure it out now. Okay, in the next block, I'm importing simple imputer function. It's just for imputing. Also, since I do a lot of work with pandas, I imported pandas as PD. First line, I convert my data to a panda format with 2 pandas, and also I make it the deep copy. Assign it to Miss work. It is just arbitrary name. So is there anyone who knows what does deep copy means? Deep copy in Python. So why I put this method here? Oh, so I'm not sure if your friends over Zoom can see, but in case you need to, let me just put your camera here. So hopefully, okay. So let me just. Yeah, it's better to ask. You know, when I put some part, it might help you for your job interview or other places you go. People might ask, what does it mean? So that's me. Okay. So let's say this is data that you import in Python, right? I don't think if they can. Yeah, I don't think they can see. But we're actually making changes some other objects in some system. So let's say you just imported data. I do a very simple thing. Let's say I multiply my, let's say I do this. Data 2 equal data 1 times 2. So when I do this, I don't create a new value, a new table of data. So basically data 1 and data 2. So let's say this is data 1. Data 2 is still here. It just has an extra information that there is a multiplication happen, right? However, when I use the deep copy method, I create an independent part of my memory, computer memory, and I assign it to data 2. So if you should learn it in Python class, but if I have time, I show you some examples that makes more sense. So now I can do some implementation on data 2 and totally independent from data 1. You should see some examples, but just keep in mind that when we have to do deep copy, it just means we assign another part of our, let's say, memory to a completely independent data. There is some pros and cons, and there's different reasons in applications. So let's see future if I have time. But if I couldn't find time, maybe I can find some YouTube video. So they show you the example and why sometimes it's better to have a deep copy. But just keep in mind, deep copy just means you create an independent, you just assign independent part of your computer memory to a new data. Okay, so look at simple imputer. This is the next line. I'm doing a median. And with, you might remember we had the ILAC method. So with ILAC, you identify which column you want to work with. I said every row, and from column 5 inclusive to column 6 exclusive. Just means I want column 5. So look at column 5. So 0 is passenger ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is age, because it starts from 0. So I'm focusing on, where was, okay, I was here. So I want to replace column number 5. How? With median imputer object, I basically apply that function and transform my column number 5 with the index of 5 and paste it on the previous column that I just identified. Again, with doing a loop on all columns and .show method, I can see what happens. So if you do that, and next line, okay, it's got, okay, count is not found. Maybe I forgot to import it. So let me just go here. I assume I did it, but just let's see. Yeah, for me, it just gave me some random error. Yeah, I just forgot to run a block up there. So anyway, do you see there is no empty cells on for my age column? Okay, I give you 1 or 2 minutes. If you want to put some comments, then I go to the next blocks. Okay, the last 2 columns, which I have empty values, are cabin number embarked, which city they embarked. Both of them are the last 2 columns, and they are categorical. So, or they are not numerical at least. Maybe you would say, I don't like to work with cabin and embark. Maybe let's just just let it as it is. If you don't use any feature, you don't have to impute, but just for a case of practice, even cabin may not be that much great idea to use with feature. I do imputation for these 2 categorical values or non-numerical values. So when I have categorical columns, it doesn't make sense if I use a statistical imputation like mean and median. For those cases, I do another imputation, which is mode. So As you see, again, with ILAC, I'm saying that I'm working on last two columns, everything from 10 and after that. I'm filling the NAs with mode. And you might be a little confused why I used ILAC basically up to 1 and ILAC 0. Just as your practice, just do it separately. Without doing that, it gives you a table. From that table, I just want to pick the first row. It's the reason I'm using ILAC 0, so I put that identification. So for as your practice, add another block below and work with the, don't use those ILAC 1 and ILAC 0, so you can see the differences. Let me do it for now. So next time you do by yourself. So let me just add a cell above and just copy and paste this. Oh. So for some reason it doesn't copy. Copy. Look, it's what you see. So just do a step by step and see how it changes when you play with that. Let me just run and then see distribution on my deck. So right now I imputed everything. There is no empty cells right now. With DF columns, again, you can see all the columns you have. So again, maybe it doesn't make sense to work with a cabin number. So may not be that much relevant to basically prediction of if anyone survive or not. By the way, I didn't explain the dataset earlier because I'm pretty sure you know when we work with the Titanic dataset, our goal is to predicting somebody survived or not. So cabin number is not very intuitive. If you have a good justification, use that column. But still, you see in the next part, with select method, I didn't use a cabin number. That doesn't make sense, although I already did imputation. Okay, so right now we have some columns that are categorical, like sex or embark, which is the city that they are embarked. So we cannot use a non-numeric value in any machine learning algorithm. So I need to convert to a format that makes sense. You might, I think pretty much, I'm pretty sure you heard of one-hot encoder. And also there is a soft encoder. So in soft encoder, you just assign a number to each category. In one-hot encoding, you make a dummy variable for each category, which I did here. So I imported vector assembler and vector indexer. These are for imputation. And look at next block. So in one-hot encoding has two steps. First step, you identify your vector index. And you just assign basically an indexer column name. So I said, okay, index on sex and assign it to sex index. Then over sex index, do one-hot encoding, and the output column name is sex vec. So the first name is the actual column name. The remaining are just arbitrary names that I picked. And I did same for embark, because embark, if you might remember, it's just city that they embark to the ship. Again, in your project, even for Titanic, I didn't have to do for all of them. Even maybe if you have a good justification, it doesn't make sense to use embark, maybe you just exclude it. Also, do you guys remember in one of in previous sessions? So the way that we import in the Spark machine learning package, so we find the columns that we want to work with, then compact it to just one column and name it as features. So it's the reason. So the next block, which is I'm using vector assembler function, it's just for changing the data format from human friendly to Spark friendly. So there is no math in it. You just, or you might see even in some blocks before it. So we use two pandas to convert. So for using different functions, since the function may not compatible with each other, sometimes you need to convert your data to different formats, which is so you can use different functions. So with vector assembler, my goal is in later on, I convert my table to something Spark friendly. And the next important part is importing logistic regression. So from Spark ML classification, I'm importing logistic regression. This is one of the simplest machine learning, or the fastest one, I can say. And you might see in the next block, I just make a empty logistic regression object. I'm just saying that in that later on, so let me just run blocks. If I don't run it now, later I get error. Okay, the label column is the column that I want to do prediction is survived. Independent variables are all of them compacted in the features column. And having this information, I want to apply logistic regression on top of this information. Okay, I give you a couple of minutes so you guys can put some comments if you want. The next section, so have you guys heard of pipeline before in your pipeline class? Or no? Some said yes, some said no. So, okay. So basically, pipeline is a easier way of doing your projects. How? You might have so many blocks of codes and somebody gets lost in your code. So one way of helping people is providing some comments. Another one, you just create a pipeline object and tell everyone what you are going to do. So again, this is really important. If you're, I think this is like internship full-time job season, and I know some of you are interviewing right now. Hopefully, you end up getting a really good position. But in case it's sometimes I think, especially for companies, pipeline is important for them because people, when they look at your pipeline, they can understand what is going on, what is the roadmap of your project. So, and it's a very easy thing. I mean, if you forgot, if you haven't heard of that, please just do some YouTube videos and you can easily understand. So look at here. I imported pipeline from Spark ML. I think that's straightforward. In the next block, I'm creating a pipeline, and with a like key of stages, I make a list. I'm saying, look, I'm going to basically index gender and embark. Also, I'm on top of, after indexing them, I'm doing encoding. I do encoding, and also then I make a assembler. I use assembler function, assembling just for converting from human friendly to Spark friendly. And at the end, I apply logistic regression. So somebody might want to see what you did in details. So they look at the keyword of gender indexer and gender encoder. Then they can search in your code. For example, if I go up, here I talk about gender indexer and gender encoder. I'm just saying that I'm indexing over 6 column. Then I make a one-hot encoding on top of that, and the name of the object is gender encoder. Same for embark encoder. And somebody might see, okay, what does log reg Titanic means? So they can search on your code. For example, if you go up, it just means I'm using logistic regression. My input variables are features, and my dependent variables is survive. So they can understand what is the roadmap. So please do it for your project. So when I look at your pipeline, I can understand what are the steps that you are going to do. It just clarified your roadmap. And even later on, when you want to go back to the codes, you just check the pipeline and understand what is going on. Any question? I know it's first time you heard pipeline, it might be so scary, but believe me, if you just do like the hands-on experiences, pipeline, you would love it because it just summarizes what is going on, what's your plan. Okay, here I created my pipeline, and later you can see, I just say, okay, this is the input data, apply this pipeline to that input data. Let's say, again, you might remember I talked about your project. I said you should try to run your project in 2 different approaches and try to improve your prediction performance, let's say AUC or accuracy. So I need to see you have 3 pipelines. So, and I see you did your effort to improve your performance. So if I see you try 3 different pipelines, even you may or may not improve, but that's okay. I just want to see you did your effort. So later, when I want to evaluate your project, I would check if do you have 3 pipelines or not. So again, this is, I think, the important things. And in case you are looking for internship or full-time job right now, just keep in mind, later if they show you this code, you shouldn't freak out. It's actually for helping you to understand what is going on. It's not for, it's not a scary thing. So, okay, then I create my pipeline. And you might remember with the random split, I split my data in 2 sections, train set and test set. I use 2 arbitrary names, train Titanic data, test Titanic data. And you might see I set train 70%, test 30%, and I use a random seed of 100 or 100. So Do you guys remember what was the purpose of using a random seed?
The numbers don't always give you a different result.
Yeah, I want you guys on your system and me, all of us get same results. So what if I use another random seed and my result would be drastically different? Instead of reliable model. So again, this is one of the first notebooks that we do, and we just check different random seed to see if it's a reliable one or not. But it's a good practice if you do cross-validation. So you check that randomness, let's say 5 times or 10 for cross-validation 10 times. So it brings more evidence for reliability. But here, just for a practice, first time, just one train set, one test.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, the project. 5 or 10 times.
Yeah, you do either 5 and 10 are the most common ones. So either 5-fold or 10-fold, that's fine. Okay, let's split our data. So look what happened. I already defined a pipeline with this name. So if you try 3 different pipelines, just name it pipeline 1, pipeline 2, pipeline 3. So I'm just saying that this is input, just fit my pipeline. That's it. So what it does, it does one-hot encoding on both gender and embark variables. Then with assembler object, it just converts it to a Spark-friendly format. And with logistic regression Titanic, it just apply logistic regression on top of everything. So with transform method, you can get the results of your prediction. So as you see, I'm transforming both train set and test set. I want to see performance of my model in both train set and test set. Next, I'm importing two great functions of binary classification evaluator and multi-class classification evaluator. So binary classification evaluator is I use it for finding my AUC, area under the curve. For multi-class classification, I'm I will use it for accuracy. So for finding accuracy of my model. Let me wait 1 or 2 minutes. So you guys, if you have questions or comments, you can just put it. Then I go to the next. Yes.
This one we use 2 methods for showing our accuracy. Can we use 9 for second method?
9?
No.
Not in this course. Yes. So this course you should do it through PySpark.
So 2 methods should be equal to PySpark.
3 methods through PySpark. 3 approaches. It could be different encoding, different models. Yeah, different features. Actually, okay, later I explain more how to find the best combination of them. So maybe one time, feature selection and logistic regression is a good one. Maybe next time, soft encoding and SVM and like different feature selection is better. So there's a lot of combinations. Maybe I've actually, if you go to my Google Scholar, I think I just published a paper. Okay, let me show it here. Yeah. So explaining predictive model performance and experimental study of data preparation and model choice. So in this one, I showed like how you can, from different combinations, how you can pick the best combinations of feature selection and like models and data prep and those so on and so forth. So if you want to understand how to find a good combinations, this is a paper that you can study. But in this class, I mean, we just do 3 random combinations of different feature selection, prep, and model selection. Okay, let's import. So with binary classification, I identify my prediction column and also dependent variable. So my prediction column is exactly prediction, has an exact name of prediction, and my dependent variable is in survive. For multi-class classification, I assign prediction column and survive separately. I just wanted there's 2 different ways of doing that, and both are fine. So you can either, it's better to assign both column in one line, but in case you want to just do step by step, this is the way of doing that. Okay, with that show also, we can just see what happened in terms of prediction, actual prediction. So as you see, for some of the survive is 0, I predicted right. For some of them, my model had some mistakes. For example, this, I think row 6 and 7, there's some mistakes. One of your friends asked question about how, what if you use NIME or SPSS or other tools. Actually, your major is business analytics, and you shouldn't escape from Python, or they will follow you. I mean, if you don't learn it now, if you don't spend time, I mean, you would be shy later, because every time you work, it's more complicated, and especially for entry level, they don't just I mean, they hire you for your skills, because they already have some people who are much older and they don't have time to learn Python and R. If you tell them I'm not that much confident in Python and R, what's the point of hiring you? They already have some people who don't know, and they use NIME, SPSS, and those kind of software. So you should be very good in technical aspect at this time. Maybe after 10 years, you don't have to be in that much technical. Maybe you are more in the higher management levels. Yeah, that's the time that you can escape from this kind of thing. But this is not the time that you escape. Okay, so, okay, let's look at the accuracy. So I applied my model on the train set and test set, and I want to see the accuracy of my model. So let's just apply it. First, I create the accuracy objects. Then I'm just printing out the accuracy of my test set, and sorry, AUC of my test set and train set first. Then I look at the accuracy. So in the earlier block, I made an object for empty object for AUC and accuracy. Next blocks, I look at the actual value by printing them. So, okay, my test set AUC is 77.5 and or 77%.6, and for train set is 78.7%. So what do you think? Do you think it seems a reliable model, or it seems non-reliable model?
77-ish test accuracy seems pretty reliable, but the model itself could be better.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of reliability, it seems okay, because but the actual accuracy, maybe actual AUC maybe sounds a little low. So maybe you can use different combination of feature selection, data preparation, or different models, try to improve. And let's look at the accuracy. It's the same thing, pretty close. So let's go back and do one experiment. I want to change my random seed. So yeah, my eyes doesn't help me. So okay, here. Let's say instead of 100, just change to 110. And I just run the next blocks quickly. So okay, let's wait for I just changed the random seed. Look, this AUC of test is way lower than train set. And let's check accuracy. It's still drastically different. So it's even with just changing one number in random seeds, it seems a lot of discrepancy. It's just some evidence for overfitting and having a non-reliable model. On top of that, your friend just said even the accuracy AUC is not that much great. So again, for your project, you try 3 different approaches, maybe 3 different pipelines, and then you just report the performance. If you can improve, that's okay. That's actually good. If you couldn't, that's okay. As long as you try, that's fine. So basically, next potential steps for improving our performance, maybe, you do feature selection. We have some experimental feature selections later. You try different algorithms, or sometimes you change under the hood of the algorithm. For example, if it's neural network, maybe you change the number of hidden layers, or maybe activation function. So you try to do a lot different combinations of factors. If you look at my paper, I said I try to find the best combination out of 10,000. So there's some method that you can try, but I think it was the first paper even talked about that, so no worries. Nobody asked. And just published like a few days ago. Okay, that's the Jupyter Notebook. So questions? Let me see if your friends over Zoom has questions or not. Okay, just let's review what we did today. So we just had the basic workflow. Similar to NIME concept, but anyway. So we import the data, we look at the structure. So we said it's okay, we can work with the structure, look at some empty columns and try to impute them. So for numerical, we did median. For categorical, we did mode for imputation. Then we picked the columns that makes more sense. We did one hot encoding, and then also with vector assembler, we convert the data to something Spark friendly. Then in pipeline, we try to just make a roadmap from what we want to do. Then we train a logistic regression. We did different random seed, and we saw that model was not that much reliable. And look at the performance of the models. Okay, having said that, you have one new assignment. So let me see. Actually, that assignment you should have it last week, but for some reasons, not some reasons, I just didn't want you. I just wanted you to enjoy your break. So let me go to Moodle. So under week 8, assignment 8, you have 1 week. So there's a Jupyter Notebook, and again, a modified. I'm not sure. I think it's the actual Apple stock price for some years. So you import the Jupyter Notebook and data frame into your PySpark or any platform that you want to work with. Within that Jupyter Notebook, there's some question, and also I put some hints. So you need to answer the questions inside your Jupyter Notebook. And then after working with the notebook, answering the questions, go to File, Export, and just export as notebook. If you do that, it will be downloaded here. So and you can then submit. Okay, another one. I know for the competition, some of you couldn't go to the next round. That's totally fine. There's two big points. First, I don't know. So I'm still waiting. Hopefully, at least one of you made it, but even none of you made it, that's fine too. So when I was graduate student, I did similar competition, and I have some feeling I couldn't get the first prize. But I'm telling you, first of all, more than 800 people attended. They are very good people. But just keep in mind, those 800 people would compete in the job market with you. So just keep in mind, they could, doesn't mean they know more than you. They could convince people that they know more than you. So convincing is an important thing. And on top of that, I remember when I was graduate student, in one competition, I couldn't get the first position. I was sad. And it was a guy who was 2 years above me. He was the first winner. And I was feeling bad. I was thinking, I don't know anything. But later, I tried hard because I understood that there's somebody who knows more than me. And I mean, I don't say my job is the best job, but I love my job. But he applied to the same position last year. He was 2 years older than me. And at the beginning, he knew much more than me. We didn't offer him a job. So it doesn't mean if you lose a competition, even job markets, you cannot catch them. So just keep in mind, you need a lot of practices. So I think I already sent you emails for some similar technical questions they might ask you. Keep in mind, many of you, I think the majority of you are immigrants, so you need to be very good in job market. So it's very competitive. Even I'm telling you, I think, have you looked at the video I posted from my cousin? She was in business analytics. I'm not sure if you remember or I saw that, but she graduated from like in her major, it was like top 5 in the US, and she ended up a company. Because of merger, they said, okay, so we merged with another company. We don't need your position anymore because they already do that. So, but she was an immigrant, but she was so competitive in her position, so she could just jump in another one.
I have a friend, she works for Snapchat now, so that's like machine learning and augmented reality. Oh, she graduated from Boston University with a 4.0 GPA and from Columbia University as well, from Masters. So like, she's very smart. It's just like, and she finds jobs like very easy. She applied to like Facebook, but they couldn't. I don't know. She went through the interview. They did accept her. Yeah, but yeah, she works for Snapchat now, so I think it's a good company. She moved to like Los Angeles, and she said like she wants to apply for other, for NASA. She wants to work for NASA as soon as she gets like her citizenship, because they don't accept, if you're not a citizen, then they don't accept.
Yeah, well, okay, she's a very smart in Snapchat, and I think she has a good pay that she can survive in Los Angeles.
She gets paid like 100K.
So, I mean, 200 in Los Angeles still is not really great. Maybe some other part of US, 200 is, yeah.
Really? Yeah.
But again, let's say Snapchat is get merged by another company, and they already have somebody who's doing the same job. So she had to leave. She have to leave. Hopefully, she never do that. But even she should be so competitive, she can easily get jobs somewhere else. So again, don't escape from technical thing. As an entry level, you should be very technical, or convince people that you are technical is another thing. So sometimes you are very technical, but you cannot convince people. Okay, that's for today. Thank you very much. Again, most likely tomorrow I will be on campus in case you have questions, especially for installing the ecosystems. You can hopefully find me tomorrow after, I guess after 2 p.m. might be better. But usually my office hours is the best time. But again, in case you need me, tomorrow you might find me too. Okay, thank you very much and have a good rest of the day.
Okay.